Will tolls definitely be coming back to Connecticut? You heard Governor Lamont talk about the need for them, as he put it, last week here on this program, and we're joined today to talk about the reality of what will happen. We are joined by Kevin Rennie of Daily Ructions and the Hartford Courant, and Ebong Udoma with WSHU Radio. And I apologize to our viewers for my scratchy voice, a little bit of spring allergies or something.
Because you're up so early.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. But gentlemen, thanks for being with us here today. And Ebong, I'll begin with you. What is the latest at the Capitol on the toll situation? Where does it stand?
Well, basically, we don't know yet because they're still trying to work a lot of this out. Right now, with the big heavy lifting is coming because of the budget, and we don't know how soon they'll be coming out with tolls. But they've only got about a month left to go, so it's got to come out soon. And the feeling is that the Democrats are going to push this. Lamont seems to want it. He went down to Washington to meet with the feds, with Elaine Chao, the transportation secretary, and he seems to feel that he'll get it. We'll see how that happens.
Kevin, is the governor in agreement with Democrats on this? Are they united?
We don't know what this is, and that's the problem. Is that Ned Lamont did not make this a centerpiece of his campaign for governor. In fact, he said he wanted tolls, he would support tolls on trucks only. He quickly abandoned that promise. And in Connecticut, we have a long history of governors abandoning campaign promises early in their term, and the public becomes very disenchanted with them.
How will that hurt him now?
Well, I think his credibility is damaged by, and he's scored an own goal on this. He's suddenly says we're really in a crisis, and we need tolls on all cars, and we need very expensive tolls at I think about 4.4 cents a mile, and we're not really sure where the tolls are going to be, and most critically, he has not made it clear where the money is going to go. And so what are the critical projects? And he visits various bridges and highways around the state and talks about the dire condition that they're in, but there are no priorities here, and it's difficult to sell this without a plan.
Ebong, they're very...
I'd like to say something, because just this week, Tammy Axon, who won special elections in West Hartford and just got seated in the House, was asked specifically if her constituents were talking about tolls when she was campaigning. And she said, no, not really. They didn't really talk about tolls or marijuana. So that's kind of interesting, because it's a big issue, and we have opposition that has built up around tolls. But she said she didn't see that while she was campaigning.
Well, I don't live too far from Representative Exum in the West Hartford West End area, and people aren't talking about it there because they don't commute long distances. Most of them work in the city, or they work in West Hartford or places like that. It's the people on the shoreline who do a lot of traveling who seem to be the most vocal. That's what I'm experiencing.
Well, or if you are on 91 or 84 each day, if you take a look at some of these maps, then these are moving targets. Yeah. But there are a lot of tolls.
And they're certainly vocal on social media.
Yes, yes. And I also think that with the national economy expanding, we're still seeing job losses in Connecticut. So there is tremendous concern about Connecticut's economy. And I don't really think people are convinced that it's the state of our highways that are causing 1,000 jobs to flee each month. And I just don't think that Ned Lamont has made the case for this abrupt change in how he wants to govern Connecticut.
Do you think he seems satisfied with his first 100 days, Ebong?
Well, nothing has really happened yet. As I said earlier, the heavy lifting is coming in the next month, because we've got to deal with a 2-year budget, and we've got to deal with all the major pieces of legislation that haven't made it to the floor yet. Marijuana, tolls, of course. And so we'll see how that works out. We'll see if he's able to hold the line, especially with taxes, because what's happened is the progressives in the House and Senate are pushing for a wealth tax, and Lamont has said absolutely nowhere, no capital gains, increase in capital gains tax.
Yeah,
we'll
how would that
see
go over, Kevin?
I don't think it would go over very well. I do think it would go over well if he kept his promise that he's not going to increase the income tax in any way. He's not increasing the sales tax, the percentage of the sales tax, but he's adding more items and transactions that are subject to it. 100 days for a governor in Connecticut is difficult to measure because the budget is usually what you're judged most comprehensively on. And Connecticut doesn't pass a budget in the first 100 days of a governor's term. And so he says he's been negotiating significant savings with the state employee unions. He said in Washington in March that he was going to make an announcement in a few days. He hasn't made an announcement. If he has good news, he's being very discreet with it.
In your column last week, you said he's a sad trombone. What did you mean by that?
Well, what I meant was that he's not off to the start that I think he expected, and that it's been pretty quiet, other than abandoning his promise on trucks only for tolls. And he does seem kind of disengaged at times. He was at a forum with businesses in Washington in March, and he referred to Connecticut as a small landlocked state. Well, we're not a small landlocked state. He couldn't answer questions about his own new agency, which is called the Partnership to Advance Connecticut's Tomorrow.
He did seem to concede that there's some difficulty getting along with lawmakers. It's a little bit more difficult than he imagined.
Although the tone is a bit different from the last governor.
Yes.
And that's a big change in Hartford.
Change. And I think he benefits considerably from that, because frankly, he seems like a nice person, and he's not a surly, nasty, unrelentingly unpleasant governor like we had 8 years of with Dan Malloy.
What do you see him tackling next? We got tolls. What else is he going to talk about?
Paid family and medical leave is a big issue.
For him, yeah.
For him, and he's in line with the Democrats in that. So I see that they're going to have that. Although there's been some pushback from state employees who say that it should be kept within the state and shouldn't be privatized. And that's another issue they've got to work out before they pass the bill.
Yeah, one quick last question. Kevin, the governor declined to endorse Luke Bronin for governor last week when I gave him the opportunity to do so. Do you think he'll play a role in this race at all in Hartford?
I think he'll wait. I think I know I don't think he's an Eddie Perez supporter, but
sounded that way because he did say Hartford was on the right track. So.
And Luke Bronin did run against him and was not all that helpful to him in the fall campaign, and was quietly kind of critical of him, and he certainly would have heard that.
Kevin Rennie, Ebong, Udoma, we thank you so much for being in the program.
Thank you so much.
When we come back, a film that will be made locally, and it will be all about a local legend. That's coming up after the break, and we welcome your comments on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.